Welcome everyone. This is Mundan Raghavan, and this video we are going to discuss on CSS Box Model. So what is CSS Box Model and what are the components out of the CSS Box Model? So just before going to the CSS Box Model, we will understand what is generally CSS Box Model. Whenever you talk about a design or layout of the elements, you will be looking into the CSS Box Model. Generally, every element inside the HTML will be having the box around that. For example, if you have the text or image, whatever it may be, as an element, it will have the box around that. Let's say, for example, you can consider the text content. Over the text content, you will be having the different layers like a padding, border, and margin. And every element inside the HTML, you will be having all these things. So what is the use of these things and how to see that, and what are the different things we can do along with the different changes in the padding, border, and margin? And when do you actually use the padding? When do you actually use the border? When do you actually use the margin? These are the things we are going to see in this video. And more on theory we have seen. So now we will jump into the practical. Just go into the VS Code and you will be having the default index.html, which has the body content with h1 tag and div tag. In div tag, we have a simple content like a text. Now we will see the direct output without making any CSS changes. Now here you can see, so this is the CSS box model and some text content. Now let's understand the first one is like we told like we have the box around each and every element, right? So let's say I have h1 and div tag, right? Let's say I want to see the h1, that invisible box, just to make border style and let's say solid. Now here you can see, so this is a box by default available for the h1 tag. Let's say I want to see the tag for div, sorry, the box for div. Here you can see this is the box by default available for the div tag. Let's say I want to see both, then div comma h1 and save it. Here you can see, so this is the default box around the CSS box model and the text. So that now we can understand that, so these are the basic things that we have in the box model. Just to mention the same thing in a different way, just click on the inspect button and let's put it into the different window. So dock it, and here you can see. So under the dev tools, you can see this kind of things. So let's say, for example, the content will be the normal content. Over that, there will be a padding, and over that, there will be a border and margin. So whatever we are seeing now, so that is the border. So just to represent that one again, just go to the CSS and let's see, just increase the border width. Let's say 20 pixel. And just to have a different color, just make the border color. Let's make something blue and save it. Now go to the output. Here you can see, now border has a more width and it has the blue. Now if you see the same thing in the, let's say, let me take that dev tools, and here you can see, so whichever the highlighted content, that is the content actually, and you cannot see the padding because we have not make any padding. So what is padding we will see in some time. Now let's say the border, so the highlighted part will be the border. Okay, now let's say margin. So margin, we have something around the entire box. So what is margin also we will be seeing in some time. So till now we have seen what is border, right, and what it looks like. Now let's say when do you go for padding? So padding is something like inside the content. Let's say you have the content and you have the border. By default, border and content will be together. So that means that over the content you will have the border. But let's say you want to have some, let's say, the difference between the border and content, or you want to have some design layout between the border and content. So in that scenario, you will be making the padding. In simple words, you want to have the more background for the content. Just to illustrate that one, here you can see, if you see the border and the content, there is no spacing or no background for the given content, correct? Let's say I want to make the background more for the content. Let's go to here and now make the padding. And let's say I want to have the padding on all the sides, let's say 40 pixels, and save it. Now go to the output, and here you can see now you have the padding. That means that there is a gap, or let's say the padding between the content versus the actual border. And you can make the different padding around the different sizes. For example, let's see. Here you can make the padding only for the top. Let's see, top, and save it and go to the output. Here you can see the padding has been applied only from the top to the content. So that means that from the border and top of the content, there will be a padding for 40 pixels. And similar way, you can make the top, left, right, so that you can have the different padding. If you don't give anything, so that means that this 40 pixel padding will be applied for all the sides, which are nothing but top, bottom, right, and left. So that means that we can explicitly give, or we can give only one value that will be applied to all the sides. Generally, you can apply the top padding, right padding, bottom padding, and left padding. Now we have seen what is border and what is padding. Now what is margin? So margin is nothing but generally if you take any node also, you will be having the margin to write something, right? The similar fashion, you want to have some layout between the different elements, or you want to make the distance between the different elements. That time you will be going with the margin. Padding is something like, let's say if you go to the image, so padding is something like you want to make the difference between the border and content, and you want to have the more background for the content. That scenario you will be using the padding. Whereas you have the different elements in your HTML documents, you want to have more distance or more differentiation or layout differences between the different elements. That time you will be going with the margin. Let's say if you see the output here, here you have the two different elements, which is nothing but h1 and div tags, right? So now I want to have more spaces between the elements. So that time what I will do is like just I will go to the same CSS and let's make the margin. Let's make 50 pixels and save it. Here you can see for each and every element, there will be 50 pixel gap. And let's say, let me increase some more. Let's say 50, 150. And save it. Now you can see from all the sides for each element there will be 150. So which means that let's say h1 tag and let's say the another element is div tag, both elements will be having 150 pixels of margin. And we should not consider like 150 for let's say h1 tag and 150 for the div tag. So totally we need to have 300 pixels. It's not the case. So that means that this will be the minimum distance that everything will have the between the across elements. For example, now if you see just with the inspect element, let's say I am going to just inspect this and just go to the layout. Here you can see this is the actual content, which is the CSS box model has been highlighted. And this is the padding that you can see. So this is the difference between the border and the actual content, which gives the more background to the content. And border actually, so this is the virtual box, or you can consider over the content, always it will be there. So that has been highlighted. Now margin here you can see, so around the element, there will be always 50 pixels of margin always will be available. Now you consider the second one. Let's go and inspect here. Here you can see the content and the padding, which gives the space between the border and the actual content and border. So we can see the border because we have increased the border width and color so that we can highlight that one, and margin. So now you can consider when you mention the margin, it is specific to the element. For every element, it will look for the 150 margin. So that means that for div tag also, we have the 150 margin on right, left, top, and everything. In similar case, you can apply the margin for left, right, top. Say, let's say, for example, I am applying only for the margin top and apply this one. And here you can see the output. Only at the top, it has the margin. In bottom, you cannot see because you will not have the margin actually for the first element h1 tag, so it has the only top, whereas in the second element div tag it has the top, so that's the reason you are seeing 150 here. So just to make difference here, let's say I will make some more thing. See, let's make right and save it and see. Here you can see only on right hand side you can see the margin. So if you have some other elements or floating elements in your HTML document, that will have the distance of 150 pixels because we have the left margin. So in simple words, again, we can really collect. So what are the things we have seen? So if you have any content, so the content over that, after the content completion, it will be very compact over the content, or let's say in the border of the content, you will be having the border. Let's say if you want to make the spacing between the border and the content, then you will be applying the padding. So why do we need padding? So in case if you want more background for the given content, so that time you will be applying the padding. And what is margin? So margin is nothing but from each and every element, what is the space that you require around the element. For example, if you have H1 element, around that, how much margin you want means, so that that space will be free for you, so that another element will not come into that area. And you can apply the margin, border, padding, everything in the different direction like top, left, right, and bottom. Say, for example, now we applied the top padding, right? So let's say padding, we will apply 40 pixels. Now let's say if I go to the padding, let's say bottom padding, let's say I'm applying 30 pixels, or let's say 3 pixels. Now here you can see the padding has been applied only for, let's say 3 pixels at the bottom layer, so that you can see in the box. So in this case, we can apply different things in the similar fashion. So rather than border style solid, you can mention dotted. And here you can see the output, the dotted will be there. And you can apply their different values like groove, double, even you can apply the double line. Right. And if you want to apply only on the border style, only on the top or left, so you can apply any direction in that scenario. And some of the examples you can practice something like if you go to the CSS borders, here we can see the different combination. And for every border style at every direction you can give, let's say, for example, it will be starting from the clock side. Let's say the border style, if it is a dotted, dashed, solid, double. So that means that you are applying the different style in the different direction. The first one will be the top. It starts from the clockwise, top, right, bottom, and left. We will apply the same value and see how it looks like. Border style. So we are giving 4 values which starts from top, right, bottom, and left. Save it and see the output. Here you can see it is starting from the first one is dotted, and next one is like a dashed, and next one is, we can reduce that pixels as well. Let's say 2 pixels and save it. And here you can see the different combinations. So these are the very basics about the, let's say, the box model in CSS. So we will see more on the CSS box model, or let's say shadow model, and so on in the coming videos. So thanks for watching and have a great day.